All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Sync on Set Crew Tools for the Costume Department, Managing Inventory, Changes, Photos, and Notes. My name is Natalie, and I am on the marketing team here at Sync on Set, and I have with me my colleague Rachel from our account management team, who will be leading you through today's tutorial. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover today. Today's webinar is designed for the costume department, and specifically, we will be addressing costume designers, costume supervisors, and truck supervisors. And today, we will cover an overview of how to add and manage costume changes, inventory items, photos, and notes, all within our web application. Now, while Rachel will be taking you through the demo today, I am going to be monitoring the Q&A for any questions. So please feel free to write in with questions as you think of them throughout the webinar. You can submit questions by using that little Q&A function that you should see at the bottom of your screen, and we'll take some time following the demo today to go through questions. And once we have finished today, you are going to receive some resources from us, and this will include a recording of today's webinar, along with a link to the Crew Tools FAQ page, which has some really great getting started information. We will also provide you with a link to the Sync on Set support site, which is support.synconset.com. If you've been using Sync on Set for a while, you may have noticed that at the beginning of this year, we launched a new help site, and this is the new address. There is where you can find our entire library of help articles and recordings of our past webinars if you'd like to get some extra training. We're also going to send you a link to the productioncommunity.com, which is a resource that is offered by Entertainment Partners, our new parent company. And there is where you can find their master series of webinars, and those cover the topics of business of production and production technology, such as Crew Tools. They also have a community forum where you can connect with other industry professionals and much, much more. So we definitely recommend that you check out that resource. All right, and with that, I am going to pass things over to Rachel, and we'll go ahead and get started with today's demo.
Thanks, Natalie. And hey, everybody, thanks for joining today. Before I jump in and start sharing my Crew Tools screen, just a quick agenda for today. So Natalie alluded to this being really a webinar focused on changes in inventory for costume users. So we're going to start out by looking at the two workflows we can use to create changes, creating those by character and creating those by scene. We'll also take a peek at managing inventory, whether that's building out inventory to the change, as well as how to manage your holistic list of inventory throughout the project. We'll also do some best practices or run through some tips for uploading photos and tagging in the site, as well as taking a look at some options for reports that focus on change information. So I will go ahead and start sharing my screen. And jump right in here. Perfect. So starting on the My Productions page, again, if you are brand new to using Sync on Set, you can literally go to synconset.com, log in with your username and password, or register if you don't have an account with us yet. And it'll jump you right into this My Productions page where you can take a look at the account you need to jump into. So I'm going to use an episodic account here for today, just a demo account. So I'll be in episode 2. But just a friendly reminder for those on episodics, we do support multi episode views now. So you can always toggle in to isolate whatever episode you are working on. We're brought right to the scenes index. This should feel pretty familiar, but I started out by saying that there are essentially 2 ways we can add changes or build these out at the beginning of our production, and that is doing it scene by scene and character by character. I know character by character is typically something we see more frequently, so I'll start with this workflow. And to jump into a character, I can always actually just click on the principal number here in this column. I can always use my search to search for a character, or just jump in from our character index at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and use Richard Anderson as my example here, our first principal character. And we're jumping right into his breakdown page. So the character view page is just that. It's pulling in all of the scenes from that script bringing in any details you want to add about that character. Photos that are uploaded and tagged to the character will be in a gallery below. And then you always have room for specific department notes if needed. But taking a look at the scenes table here, they're all in yellow. But once we build these changes out, that'll actually move to a different color here. We can see we've got one as an example. But the easiest way to do this would simply be to click Edit All to open up all of these scenes. Otherwise, we can always just open up one individually by clicking this little ellipsis icon off to the right, just in line with that scene you're looking to edit. So really easy to update it there as well. But essentially, when we see these this change column open up here for us to edit, we have this drop down option. So I've already got change number 3 down here as an example, but we want to start way at the top, starting with change number 1. So I can simply type in change number 1. It's going to give me the option to create that change, and I'll just click create 1. And I'll go through the rest here, but I just wanted to show everybody that when you do click save, it's going to create that change now, and it's going to hyperlink that for you. So we can actually jump into that change 1 and start building out inventory when we need. We'll take a look at that in just a minute, but to build out some additional changes here for Richard, I can just click edit all and continue to go down the row here. So maybe we've got him in change 1 for a few scenes. We need to create a change 2 for a few scenes. Looks like he's in change 3 for scene number 9, and we'll have him in that for the rest as well. Maybe we'll do 4 for the last one. So as you can see, it's very easy to come in here and just start building these out as needed. I'm again going to just pop back up to save these. But now we can see that, as a visual indicator, nothing is highlighted in yellow anymore. That just simply tells you that you don't have a change assigned for that scene quite yet. But we can see that we've filled this out for Richard for this episode. And if we scroll all the way to the bottom, you'd also get a changes index table, which is really nice. So for example, if we wanted to say, hey, we know there's going to be a change 5 at some point, we just don't know what scene we're going to be assigning that to, you can always still create a change, throw in a description, and build out inventory, even if you haven't yet assigned it to a scene necessarily quite yet. So this is always going to be available for you at the bottom of the page. So really easy to go through this character by character. You'll see these arrows here at the top, which will allow you to just, again, jump into the next character on the list and start building in changes as needed. So it looks like we've got a few scenes that we don't have a change quite yet. We can always go add these in again, just scrolling over using these arrows and going character by character. So that is certainly one way to do it. I also mentioned just jumping into the scene itself. So let's take a look at scene number 1 as an example. And again, I'm just jumping into that scene page by clicking on that scene number. You can also get there from the main scenes index, or again, just using that universal search, really easy. But now that we're in scene 1, we already see the changes that we created for Josh and Richard available for us, which is great. And all we have to do is add one in for the neighbor. So I can always just edit or open that up for the neighbor. Looks like he does have a change 1 all ready to go. Otherwise, we could have created that for him on the scene page as well. This same workflow does apply to background groups and background characters. From that scene page, we do have a specific table for the principal characters at the top, background characters at the bottom. So we've got a few bar patrons already in scene 1, and I can, just like my principal characters, go ahead and open this up to edit and create a change number 1 or assign a change number 1 for these bar patrons. So just like the principal characters, or the way that we did it with Richard and Josh, those arrows will still be at the top for scene view as well. So you can, again, just kind of go scene by scene and build out these changes as needed, or just make sure that no one's missing a change. So whether you do it character by character or scene by scene, it's really accomplishing the same goal. Just allows you to have a workflow that is per preference or based on the scenario that you're in. And let's actually jump back into, before we start building out changes, one thing that's really nice to know or to be aware of is the ability to adjust change numbers. This is something that you can do from that character view. So let's say, for example, we've gone through our breakdown, we've built out our changes, but we just received a revision and Richard's been added to a new scene, which is going to force us to create a new change and essentially shift all of the change numbers up one number. So what would that look like in Sync on Set without having to edit everything individually? So let's say that Richard's going to be added to another scene, and we can do 6 for this example. So we've seen that scene 6 is now added to his breakdown. There's already a little gap for us here to create a new change 3. But what we want to do first is just shift these change numbers and any of the rest of the changes he may have in the script. This would definitely be something to keep in mind for a feature when you have a really long change index or a really long list of multiple changes. So we essentially want to shift the 3 to 4 and the 4 to 5 before we create that new change 3 for Richard. So I'm going to jump down to that changes index table I was referring to earlier. And in line with change number 3, I can just go ahead and edit, and I will see these little arrows again next to that change number, and I can simply just click that up arrow and shift those numbers up 1 digit. So it just helps adjust all of the remaining changes without us editing these individually. So if I go ahead and save, we've renumbered them and now have room to create a new change 3 here in the breakdown. So I can always, again, just edit in line with that specific scene. If I look at my dropdown, we moved things around so we no longer have a change 3, but we can always create a new change 3. Go ahead and save. And I just want to also highlight the fact that this does have inventory already built out to it. So I actually want to just jump into this change really quick, this change number 4. So we've got inventory. Before this was change number 3, I just want to make everybody aware that nothing in terms of the inventory changes. So if you still had this change built out, you had inventory, maybe there's photos and notes and things logged to that change, nothing about that change is going to be modified. We're simply just updating the change number. So don't feel like any of the information you've already logged is going to change or be removed or deleted. When we adjust those change numbers, we're just doing that is just updating those numbers. So let's jump back into Richard and let's say, for example, that the reverse happened, right? So maybe we got a revision and we're actually going to omit scene number 6. We don't need it anymore. So we can go ahead and remove this from Richard's breakdown. And we're back to where we would need to shift those numbers up again. So if I scroll down to my changes table here, we no longer need that change 3. It's been removed. It was a quick modification that we received on the script. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete that change. And I can click into change 4 again and just shift the numbers down 1. So putting that back into original change number 3. And once we save that, we see the numbers shift here, but we also see them shift here on that breakdown as well. So if we take a look at kind of the holistic view, it's back in numerical order. So just something, a really great tip to keep in mind, especially if you are adjusting change numbers frequently. Just want to make sure everyone is able to do that quickly and seamlessly without having to individually update each scene. But now that we've walked through just different ways to build out the changes on a character breakdown or a scene view, let's jump into an actual change and see how we can build out inventory. So I'll use change 1 as an example, and I'm just clicking on that change hyperlink number. So we've got a little bit of a blank page here, a blank canvas, and we can start adding inventory as needed. Now the add icon here is going to allow us to create a brand new item or pull from our existing inventory. So if we go ahead and create a new item here, we're going to see quite a few fields. We can certainly add all of this information. Otherwise, just the name, we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and do a t-shirt here. Just the name will go ahead and create this in the system for us, and then we can edit or add information as needed along the way. So I can just say this is going to be a blue t-shirt, quantity of 1. Maybe it was $30, just to throw in some information for us. So I can go ahead and create that. And now that it's added to our change, I do want to just reassure everybody that this is also going to be added to the main inventory list. So even if you do create items brand new within the change, it's still going to be saved to the main inventory list from the index page here. We'll jump into that in just a minute. But the goal here is that you only have to create an inventory piece one time in Sync on Set, and you'll be able to leverage that or use that inventory in any way throughout the production. So we just added a new piece of inventory. Let's pull one from our existing list here. So this was just going to pull up by default all of the items that we have logged to Richard's closet, but if he was wearing someone else's jacket or someone else's inventory, you can pull from other closets as well, or look at no character if it's maybe just some random inventory you're adding along the way. So let's say that he's going to use this zip up hoodie, and I can just click these blue addition or these blue plus icons to the right here to add them to our change, and we'll do this sweatpants. You can scroll down, click done, and I will again see these here on our change list. One thing to note about inventory that's consistent on the change page here, as well as the main inventory list, is the ability to really decide what item details you want to see on the page. So you can always drag and drop these. Maybe we don't have status, we don't need to see that field. We can always click this choose columns icon, scroll down and just deselect status. Maybe we want to see description. Maybe we are adding descriptions or any other pieces of information you may want to see on the change. You can always customize as needed. And then another thing that is really exciting that we've added that has been a request for our costume community in the past is being able to sort the order of the change. So maybe you want to sort these in order from top down to the top to bottom. You can go ahead and now drag and drop these as needed. So that is something that's awesome that just helps teams stay organized. That order would also be reflected on things like bag tags, change reports, continuity. So really able to customize that order now on both the change and the reports. So we've added a bunch of inventory to a change. Just like we saw with the principal characters in the scene view, we still got these arrows up here. So we can always just go change by change and again, continue to build out these changes with inventory. Maybe we're doing a suit for this change. And I can always, again, just tab over to that third change. Looks like we have some inventory built out here, but fourth change kind of getting that muscle memory intact here, just going change by change and either creating new items or adding existing inventory. So really easy to build those out and see the item data or the item information that you're adding along the way. But I wanted to also take a look at kind of what this full inventory list looks like as well, which you can always go to or jump into by just clicking inventory on that top navigation bar. Now this is pulling in a full holistic list for us. So um, for those on an episodic account, again, no need to jump into episode by episode to try and find the item that you're looking for. When you come to this page, you are working with a holistic list, regardless of what episode you're in. So whether I jumped into episode 1 instead, you can see that nothing on my list here has changed. We're working with the same inventory, regardless if we have all episodes selected or just one. And just like that change page or that change view we were just in, you can customize the columns of what you want to see over to the left here. So a lot of different ways to kind of filter or view this information depending on what stage of production you're in. You can always use the search column or the filter icon over here at the or to the right to select an individual character closet. So if I wanted to just again look at Richard's items, I could select Richard. It's going to pull everything from his closet. Um, and if I wanted to just exit and get back to my full list, really easy to do that as well. A couple other features on the right-hand side that are nice to know about is one, just being able to create new inventory. This would feel pretty consistent whether you're on the inventory index or on a change page. So again, you would just be getting that same exact inventory prompt to add in that information. But you also have some options here with the ability to create things like storage locations, custom types and categories, as well as statuses. So this is huge, I think, especially if you are a visual learner, a visual organizer. You can see that I've got the first 4 items here in different colors, and that's simply just based on the status. So if you do track statuses, maybe you have a lot of made to order items that you want to kind of have insight into when those will be completed or the status of those, or maybe you are dealing with a lot of rentals on your production and you want to log start and end dates or understand what's been returned, what's still being in use. These are going to be great to work from. And if you just click edit custom status, you can use the ones we have recommended or trash them and create your own. Either way, you'll be able to assign different colors. And then when you go ahead and update the status, everything will be color coordinated. So for example, taking a look at the little boxes off to the left, if I go ahead and select the first 3, I can bulk update a handful of fields here. So whether it is category, status, wrap box, disposition, you can really get pretty granular with the data that you are logging, or especially closer to wrap, maybe your production or your studio is asking for certain information along the way, like an asset list or just a full inventory list. You will be able to go ahead and select all of your inventory and then export this to a PDF or a CSV. So when doing that, all of the headers or these columns up top, that is the information that would source onto the report. So if you wanted to customize this based on the different columns, you could always pull a report with specific information. Again, really easy to just go ahead and select all off to the left-hand side. And that icon is just this more icon here, the 3 ellipsis dots, and this will allow you to export again to a CSV or a PDF format. So really helpful at wrap, especially if you're being asked for specific information along the way. And that is a lot of information about inventory, but helpful in terms of being able to just customize and manage this throughout the production. The other part about inventory I wanted to touch on here is the actual inventory piece. So let's take these cargo pants, for example. I'm just going to jump into the cargo pants by clicking on the item. I, again, am brought to a page just about those that article of clothing, and I can continue to edit this along the way. So it's going to pull up any information you've added, but you can always come in here and update this as needed. And this is also where you can see the inventory photo. So as you may know, Sync on Set supports a lot of different types of photos, right? We've got continuity, you can log research, and we also have the inventory photos that are just of the item itself. And those are typically going to be asked, for when producing the asset lists or the inventory reports at the end. And so the best way to add in just those inventory photos is on this item page. So you will also see this little ellipsis or this actions icon in the top right corner. And if I click that, I can always add a photo. And again, it's just gonna log this photo right to the cargo pant inventory piece that we've created. So that is always an option. And I think the easiest way to add inventory photos along the way. Um, the other option for adding photos is just right from our gallery. So clicking into our gallery here, you can upload all of your photos to this gallery, which is nice, and then tag them as needed. So a way that we could consider or look at tagging is very similar to social media. So basically we've got all sorts of different types of tags that you can add to a photo. They can be scene tags, character tags, tags to the change, an inventory piece tag. Um, Basically, wherever or how whatever tags you're adding to the photo is the gallery you'll be able to find it in later. So you can add multiple tags to a photo just wherever you want to be able to see or look up that photo in the future. You'll just want to make sure that tag is added. So when we look at the gallery, we're seeing all of these photos here as untagged photos. And so when you jump in and add photos through this prompt, whether you drag and drop them or select a full folder at a time, they're gonna come in as untagged. And then we can simply go ahead and click this tag icon, select the photos that we want to tag. So let's see, let's tag this to an inventory piece that we have as our first example. So I'm just clicking that item, clicking tag again, and I've got this prompt that pulls up and allows me to really search across all of the tags in the production. So I know we've got some custom Nikes here for Monica. So I can tag this to those to the tennis shoes. And when I go ahead and click tag down at the bottom, that photo is removed. It's no longer considered untagged. But if we go ahead and jump into our custom Nike shoes here, we'll be able to see the tennis shoes that we just added or that we just tagged from the gallery. So again, it's really accomplishing the same goal, whatever way that you want to add photos, whether it be from the actual item itself here, or you upload them through the gallery and tag them there. It's all being sent to the same place. So again, whatever workflow works best for you. And I know we just did that as an example for an inventory piece, but let's say we want to add some continuity photos as well. Again, that workflow is just clicking tag, selecting the photos you want to add tags to. Let's say these are all going to scene 1 in our coffee shop. We'll add this one as well. Now that we have all 4 photos selected, I can click tag again and just type in scene 1. And then again, clicking tag to confirm. Those are going to be removed from our untagged list. But then if I were to jump back into scene 1 here, we'll be able to see those on our continuity gallery. So these are now logged in the gallery based on the tag that we added. And whether you're in the gallery or you're in the scene page here, you can always click on the photo itself and just double check what tags you added. So whether you're on the website here, on our mobile app, you can always open up a picture full size and just double check that it has the tags that you want. That's always the best way to make sure everything is tagged appropriately or in kind of living in the right place. And then you can always add or remove tags as needed. And I know I walked through that tagging workflow pretty quickly, but if you are on the gallery, this little question mark here just pops up a little refresher for everyone. It's always really helpful and kind of walks through those directions. So always something nice to have in app. And then again, on the gallery, if you ever want to kind of sort or filter in different ways, it's always going to bring you into that untagged photos folder first by default. But then you can always select to see them by scene, by shoot date, by character. You can jump into your research as needed. So a lot of different options to be able to see this information and tag it to the right place. And last but not least, I know we talked a lot about being able to add all of your change information, but what about the reports? How do we share this information with the team, especially during production when we need to have things like change outlines, bag tags? On our reports page, again, just by clicking reports in the top nav bar, you'll scroll down and we have a full section of change reports in purple. The first one, changes detail. This is going to be that continuity book. So essentially at the very end, if you want to go ahead and pull this, it's going to provide the character name, the change number, the change item detail in the specific sort order that you've selected, as well as any continuity photos along the way. Change outline is going to be more of just a straight outline of those changes. But the one I wanted to point out was the bag tag reports for label writers as well as regular printers. Label writers is going to sync up to your Dymo printer if you're using that. So if you wanted to just determine what information you want on those bag tags, you can just generate the report. It's going to always usually pull up an option for us to print, but we can see here it might be a little small, but it shows all of that information again in that item order that we've selected, and that can either get printed on regular paper or, as I mentioned, to change the destination to like a wireless Dymo. Um, while this is available from the reports page, and you can do like holistic reports, whether it's for all characters or the full change list for one character, I did want to show everybody that this is available per individual change as well. So for example, if we jumped back into Richard's changes, I've got his change list here. Let's use change one as an example. Again, I'm just jumping in by clicking on that change one number. And I will see again this actions icon up in the top right corner. So I have the ability to edit this, add photos, but I also have the ability to print. So this is going to throw up a change details report, as well as give you the option to just print out that bag tag for this individual change. So if I wanted to see change details, for example, maybe this is, before principal photography starts as you guys are in prep, maybe no continuity photos added as of yet, but you can see that you've got all of this information here for that change, what scenes it's going to be featured in, as well as the character listed. So a few different options in terms of reports, just based on what information you're trying to pull. So a lot of flexibility there as well. And that does cover it for the demo portion of today's webinar. But I do want to just remind everybody of a few best practices here before we jump into our Q&A portion. First is that inventory list I mentioned, just as a friendly reminder to episodics, no need to jump in and out of different episodes. That main inventory page is going to be your primary list for the whole season. So hopefully a lot easier to keep track of. The next one is those change numbers. So if you are in need of adjusting those without wanting to update those individually, it's a really easy process. And we have a great article in our Help Center that walks through this in much more specific detail, as it's a great cheat sheet. So you can search for that. It's called Incrementing and Decrementing Changes in our Help Center. So that's a great resource for that specific function. Third is adding photos, notes, and inventory, just reminding everyone that essentially everything we did today regarding changes, as far as building out changes, adding and removing inventory, updating inventory information, and of course, adding photos and notes, always available from our mobile app as well. And we do have a webinar in our help center as well that focuses just on mobile functionality. So great resource for anyone that's going to be on set. Our universal search, always a great place to navigate the site. It's that search bar in the top right corner of the page that will get you into scenes, characters, actors, changes, inventory. So whatever you need to look up across the production, that's going to be a really easy way to navigate throughout the site. And last but not least, our Sync on Set Help Center, what I was referring to, is just a great site to have bookmarked. It's full of cheat sheets and workflow guides that kind of walk you through different functions throughout the app. So whether it's website, mobile, we've really got resources for everything that you can use and search from along the way. Our support team is also available as well. And I know Natalie will have some information on how to access our support team at the end. But those are just a couple best practices to keep in mind. But let's take a look and see if we have some questions here.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much. And just to let everyone know, we are going to get started with Q&A in just a moment, but we want to give any last questions, anyone the ability to write in with any last questions for a few seconds. And while you are doing that, we do want you to know that we will get to as many questions as we can, but if for any reason your question doesn't get answered live, please don't worry. We do record all questions that get submitted, and we will be sending out additional information following the webinar. So Rachel, it looks like we do have a handful of questions to get started with. So if you want to go ahead and jump into these, we can take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Natalie. Awesome. So we do have a couple questions that are coming in here. One is in regards to photos and the amount of photos that you can add to continuity. That is no limit in terms of what the site can handle, but everyone's individual subscription is going to have a max number of photos that's allowed on their account. But we would never set you up with anything you would likely go over. So you can feel free to add as many photos as needed. And that is all photos, whether it's continuity, inventory, research photos, they all count as just regular photos in the website. And like I said, those can also be added through the mobile app as well. And a couple questions on tagging. So when tagging a continuity photo, do you still tag it with the character and the change number? I think that's a really great question because there are a lot of tags that you can use in Sync on Set. And I will go ahead and share my screen here just for another quick visual. So back on Crew Tools, hopefully everyone can still see my screen. But I just wanted to, again, pop over to the...
Rachel, we can't see your screen yet.
Oh, okay. I think that might be a little better.
There we go.
Perfect. Thanks. So back on the gallery, let's again I'll use this Marvel shirt here as an example, but when you tag photos, I could tag this photo to Richard's character. You can see here as I type, it's pulling up automatically everything regarding Richard. So I can tag this to his character. I can certainly tag it to a change, tag it to inventory. So as you can see, whether it's a scene, a change, a character, you can add all of those tags to a photo. And that photo will then be available in those galleries. So let's just use this Marvel t-shirt as an example. I'm going to go ahead and tag this to his change as well as the character. So if I jump into Richard Anderson, I'll be able to see this Marvel photo in his gallery because it does have a character tag. So again, it is a lot of different tags that you can add, but never feel like you're limited. It's just always dependent on how you're trying to organize those photos and that information. But great question there. Let's see, another few questions about continuity photos. Do continuity photos from different departments sync under the same scene if their departments tag them that way? This is another really great question. If you are on a production-wide account, and what that means is you may be on account with just costumes, Otherwise, you may be sharing an account with a couple other departments as well. If that's the case, your department information is always going to be private for your department. The only information that's really shared is the scene information. So, for example, I'll jump into one scene here. But it's really the script information that would be shared across the account. The department information is going to be private unless you have access to those departments. So, for example, if you are a costume user and you want to be added to hair and makeup as a read only user, just to be able to see that information, you'll then be able to see hair and makeup in this drop down. You can always select those departments to see. And then if you click this little drop down, you would be able to see if hair and makeup had any information assigned here, any notes, or any photos as well. So you can definitely kind of toggle this on and off if you have access to see other departments' information. And this is really helpful, especially for being able to share continuity. So it will technically still be available, but you would want to have access to those departments again as a read-only user to see them in that gallery. Let's see here. Another question that we've received is, what is the most recent feature or update just in regards to changes on our site? Another great question, and I think that this is one in regards to the sort order. So I think I alluded to this at the beginning, but if not, the sort order is something that we've recently released, which is really exciting. And again, just allows you to kind of switch order here, whether it's top to bottom, bottom up, however you guys are, whatever order that you prefer to see that in. Those are now adjustable for all of that change information, and again, available in that order on reports and bag tags. This is another great question. A lot of good ones today, everybody. One in regards specifically to returns. So for returns, what do you recommend to help keep track of this? And there are actually a few different ways depending on what makes the most sense for your production. I'm jumping back into this inventory page here just to show that we can still use statuses as a way to facilitate returns. We can also use categories. So those are kind of two interchangeable things that you can just add and customize depending on how you're tracking that information. So I always love things that are color coordinated. It just makes it really easy for me to see and to understand, especially at a quick glance of such a large inventory list. The other thing too that we have as far as information on the item level is start and end dates. So for example, if you wanted to mark that this is rented as the purchase type, and maybe we want to go ahead and say that we do need to return this by November 30th. I can just say hat. And if I mark, I can search for my hat now. I've got, I think this hat here is the one I just added. We can see that the purchase type is already a field on our page, but we can also throw in the end date as well. So again, you can customize this information, make it a little bit easier to read, but essentially you can pull in the purchase type, start and end dates, and filter by that. So then you'd be able to see essentially kind of a clean line of, okay, I've got a bunch of rentals that I need to send back. Where do we start in terms of when these need to be returned? So those are kind of two different ways that you could handle that on the main inventory page. Let's see here. Is there a place where it can be notated that the garment is altered in house, dyed, distressed, etc.? Um, Again, those types of details are always available from different fields from the item level. So if we were to create another item, um, the best place that you could throw that in is the description. I think that would be, as far as kind of what we have available for that type of information, whether it's dyed, distressed, the open text field here in description is pretty large, so you can really throw in as much information as you'd like there. The other option we do have, this is probably more relevant if you're wrapping out or providing kind of like a final report at the end, but we also have an open text field for disposition note. So maybe you received it in the process of production, you dyed and destroyed this article of clothing, and you wanted to mark as such for production at the end. This would be another place that we could add that information to. In the wrap section, is that the best place to put return images in? Um, yes, that could definitely work. So if the question is, just to repeat that for everybody, is the wrap section the best place to put return images in? Um, when you're looking at the items, I kind of noted that the individual item itself, you have these thumbnails available. But if we clicked back into this shirt, for example, you can add multiple photos here. So if you had this black shirt and then maybe midway through production, there was a scene where the shirt gets like destroyed and ripped in half and it's all tattered, you can certainly add that photo as well. So you could have two, one of the photo when you first purchased it, and then one of the photo after it's been kind of tattered and destroyed. So that will still be available and kind of just encompassed in one place. So that would probably be the best area to add additional photos about that item. Um, Quick question about changes for multiple episodes. Um, yes, so again, as I mentioned earlier, you can add multiple episodes to your view here. And the way that would make the most sense to look at here is probably from the character view. So I'm jumping back into Richard's character, and I am going to show what this view is for both episodes, both episode 1 and 2. So you can see now on the breakdown here that I've got all of the scenes from both episodes. I've got his change list featured here as well. Any notes that the crew is going to be adding on set, like actual continuity notes, will be seen here. So those can be added on the web, again, just in this open text field here. Otherwise, super easy to add these from the mobile app as well. If they are added from mobile, once that information syncs up, you'll be able to see it on web here. So great little tip there. But in terms of being able to see both episodes, we can see that full breakdown here for episodes 1 and 2. And then I just wanted to jump to the bottom here to show you that it will also show you the full change index per episode as well. So you can start to really get a nice clean list of all of the changes for that character on an episodic, rather than having to, again, jump back and forth in between each episode. And I think that might be all of, just keeping an eye on the time. That is all the questions we have time for today. But anyone that wasn't able to have their question answered will be following up with you in a direct email after this webinar. But I will go ahead and pass it back to Natalie for some closing remarks.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. And again, thank you, as Rachel said, to everyone who did submit questions. We did keep getting more questions, and we are coming up on the end of the hour. So if we did not get to your question, please just hang on, and we will be sending out additional information following today's webinar. And for any other questions that you might think of outside of today, you can always reach out to us directly and get in touch with our support team. We do have a few different ways to contact our support team, so we just want to take a look at those with you now. First thing thing would be to send us a chat while you're logged into the website. That little blue chat bubble will connect you directly with our customer support team directly, not just a bot or anything. So they will be able to get back to you with really quick time and give you all of their support Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also email our support team at support@synconset.com, or if you'd prefer to give us an old-fashioned phone call, we are available and we would love to hear from you. So please feel free to give us a call. Outside of those hours, you can also head over to the support site for synconset.com. So that is support.synconset.com. And again, that is where you can find all of our help articles and videos and do some self-guided learning there. So now that we have covered all of that today, we want to again say thank you to everyone who joined us and took the time to attend this webinar. We hope that this session about changes in inventory and photos and notes was very informative and helpful to you as you get back to work and you are working within our web and our mobile apps. If you could please take a few seconds following today's webinar, we would love to know how we did. We do have a brief feedback survey where you can give us feedback. And please also keep an eye out for announcements on future webinars. We do produce new content each month. Okay, everyone. Well, we hope that you all stay safe and healthy and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us today.